Hey guys, just a quick chat around what I use for detailing of my kits. I get a lot of questions about what do I use and how do I do it and all that kind of stuff. So I thought I've got a mess here of basically all the bits and pieces I use, and I keep up boxes nice, sort of nicely set up. So I'll start with what I use on the engines and that stuff, and that's pretty much all the hose clips. People quite often ask me, what kind of hose clips do I use and where do I get them from? So if you're dealing with things like the high-end kits like Model Feature Hero, a lot of them will come with hose clips anyway, but quite often they will be missing some vital clips around the engine components. So case in point is this Porsche engine you've probably seen in one of my videos before. So those hose clips there came with the kit, and some other hose clips which are around the kit, like those ones in the blue boots there, they weren't included in the kit. So what did I use? I used, you can actually buy them from various places like Spot Model, B&A, and if you're in New Zealand, I don't know of any place in New Zealand that sells them, so you'll need to probably go overseas. So things like this, you can get vendors are like B&A sell them, and Spot Model. This is Crazy Modeler one. There's a set of hose clips on KA, very popular. And there's a few others as well, and I think Model Feature Hero actually sell them separately as well. So moving on to things like the A&N fittings and that stuff too, because I use a lot of A&N fittings, which is basically all the hose types, those ones there, different sizes, different scales and that stuff. So these are great. A lot of the kits, especially if you're doing Tamiya kits and that stuff, don't come with these, and you can either drill out what their crude setups and actually use these. These are a lot more detailed. So these are Top Studio ones. Top Studio are probably the best because these are resin printed, and they are very, very accurate and very easy to work with too. You paint them and then you can use the anodized look if you want to. So to get that anodized look, the blue and the red, and that you put a silver base coat on, and then you use something like clear blue or clear red on top of that to bring it out. So, and there's all different types. You can go from, as I said, they haven't even touched yet, those types, through to different sizes, different bends. There's a very tiny set which is almost all used up. And so they all different types. You can use them from things like brake fittings, brake lines, through to hydraulic fittings, cooling systems, breather pipes, and that kind of stuff. So it really fills the engine out as you're building it out as well. Then you can move on to other components too, like little hose fittings and that stuff too, that have clips around them. And one person asked me on that big Tolman I did, is that how did you fasten the wire across the carbon tub to make it look like it actually was stuck to the body? And I use things like this, which is from Top Studio as well. That's almost used up. So yeah, and that actually came from a set which basically had a whole bunch of little detail bits in it. So Top Studio is a very common vendor for that. And then all the rivets. So quite often, like the Britain motorbike being a very sort of basic 12-scale bike, the real bike has a lot of rivets around the side, and these are fastest and that stuff. You can get these kind of rivets too. They're very, very small. So you're going to need a magnifying glass and some really jewelless sort of tweezers. I'll just open it up for you so you can see here there's a massive range there. These are all quite cheap too. They're not really, really expensive. So yeah, and then you can get into the real crazy stuff like wheel weights to make it look as if your wheels are balanced on your car. So your little tiny wheel balances and that, wheel weights and wheel balances and that stuff too, which is really cool. If you, and you can get those from most places like B&A and that stuff. One thing, if you have a look at the Tyrrell P34 6-wheeler that I built a while ago, so it'll be back in my photo history, and you'll see further back you'll see a lot of switches which were used in that stuff too. So the actual toggle switches, you can actually buy those. They're tiny, actually minute. You can buy them from places like B&A as well. And also all the other detail parts too, like mesh for if you're into doing a Cosworth DFE engine and that stuff, you can get mesh for the intakes, very, very high resolution screen and that, and then you can get into the various hose types. Now I'll talk about hose types in 2 seconds, because I'll just talk about seatbelts first. There's a massive range of seatbelts out there. I always use Photo Etch. I use whatever's available at the time. I'm not sort of wedded to any brand. Here's a Scale Motorsport one. You can see that there. and they come out, and for the buckles, they have different types for the cars as well. Take note, if you're trying to get it historically accurate, obviously cars from the 60s and older didn't have seatbelts. And any of the newer cars, like 2000 plus, like you're doing with the Schumacher Ferraris or anything, the newer cars and stuff, the regulations from the FIA then actually have quite wide seatbelts as well. So make sure you get the right seatbelt for your Formula One car as you're building it out for the regulations. Of course, the new cars are very wide and the seatbelt profile. So if you're wanting to look at different colours, because obviously the seatbelts come in lots and lots of different colours and stuff, from red to black to blue to there might be some white ones I've seen. You can you don't have to spend lots of money getting them. You can actually go to craft shops. This stuff's from just from a normal craft shop. Spotlight and stuff, you can buy them in the rolls, and these rolls are cheap. These are like $10, right? And you can just cut them out, and they come in different widths too. So this one's a good width for the lap belt side on your race cars, and then obviously then you go for the width around your shoulder harnesses and that stuff for different size widths as well. So it's very handy to get those, and you just buy them in a roll. Then also, while we're on the topic of Spotlight and that stuff, for wiring, so jewelry string, very, very handy. It comes in different sizes, different widths, and here's one I haven't opened, and that's 26 gauge, and that's perfect for doing things like fuel injection lines on 12 scale cars. You can get different types. There's some real flexy stuff as well, which I've got some somewhere, but it's not here, and it's like, oh, it's basically just rubber, and because rubber falls really nicely around curves and that stuff, it just drops and makes a real nice flow look to things like brake lines and stuff as well. So yeah, so go with your wife down to Spotlight or something like that, and have a check out the range of bits and pieces, particularly in the craft aisle and the picture framing area. There's lots and lots of cool stuff there. And another thing to keep out is also the beads. So there's a tin full of beads, and they're actually hex fittings. So I got them from Spotlight years ago, and I'm still using them a lot, and they're perfect size for hex nuts. They're even chromed, so there you go. Then you can get carried away with the detailing too. So a lot of the Formula One cars have a lot of electrical connectors. You can go for those, and they actually have heat shrink around too. So you put the heat shrink on, electrical connector, give it a bit of heat on it, and then you've got yourself a beautiful electrical connector like you can see there on that picture. Great for big 12 scale Formula One cars. Small rivets. Also with exhaust pipes too, a lot of them will have exhaust clamps and that stuff, because exhaust pipes in a lot of race cars have to expand with heat, and also the way they join them together, they don't like welded together a lot of the time, and so they use heat clamps. So there's photo etch heat clamps, and you just bend them to fit, and it gives you that extra detail on the exhaust systems as well. The other one to look at is also braided lines. So you can go crazy with this stuff. So here's something that a good friend of mine dropped off. So from basically electrical places, here's a really heavy gauge braided line, and you get them from a lot of electrical stores. Through to there's a black one here somewhere, various black ones and silver ones and stuff from the likes of Model Factory Hero, Top Studio and that stuff. I'm just trying to see if I can find one here for you. Here we go. There's one here which I need to sort out, but you can sort of see here. That's actually great, and to put those on, because it's very flexible, as if you wanted to make it stay in one particular place, it's actually wide enough to put a real tiny brass wire through it, just so that, and then it'll maintain shape. Right. And that stuff works really well. It's a little bit fiddly sometimes when you start trying to figure out how to use it, and because it's kind of a cloth material, it does soak up the glue. So if you're going to use a very thin glue, it'll run up the line. So you just got to be careful with that. I prefer to use quite a thick, heavy glue so it doesn't run everywhere when you're doing that. So hopefully that's of some help for you for how you detail engines particularly. I do it a lot, so check out my builds, because they're kind of covered in all this kind of stuff, from 20th scale, 24th scale through to 12th scale cars. Basically every car I've done so far has some form of extra detailing added to it. So hopefully that's some use to you, and fire through any questions about anything that you want to know about that kind of stuff too, because it's a massive area for me. So talk soon, bye.